Today in the Valley with Ibrahim Sagna is an engineer of nation branding and tourism promotion. As the Chief Tourism Officer of the Rwanda Development Board, our guest has been executing the vision of His Excellency President Paul Kagame to position Rwanda as a hub for key activities driving tourism to the land of a thousand hills. Since 2018, the country secured a key partnership, including the most recent signing of a deal with the Bayern Munich. To discuss how Rwanda is setting a blueprint in leveraging the power of sports, the Valley welcomes Michaella Rugwizangoga.
Michaella, it's so good to be here with you in Kigali, one of my favorite cities in the world.
Thank you. It's very good to have you back in Kigali. Yes.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. The pleasure is mine. I'm going to start taking you and allowing all of us to know a bit more about your origins. The late Steve Jobs once said, you cannot connect to the dot looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. You must trust into the process that things will connect in the future. Today you are the Chief Tourism Officer of Rwanda. How does that quote? Where does it take you in terms of your role today and the dots in your past?
There's a lot to say. It takes me back to Germany. I did my university in Germany between 2006 and 2013, so bachelor masters. And I studied chemistry, so chemical engineering. And during my school time there, I came across a book one day. Came across a book that talked about nation branding. And the topic was centered around Germany and how they rebranded themselves after the Second World War, how they brought different working groups from poets to artists to engineers, to politicians, to rethink how Germany will position itself moving forward. And at that point, I read that book. I actually wrote that book in a notebook because the concepts were fascinated me. And the question was, how can we do that for Rwanda, for African countries, so Rwanda or elsewhere? And the reflection kept growing. So at the time I was wondering, okay, I'm studying engineering, but how can I work in nation branding? How can that exist? And fast forward to 2014, when I came back to Rwanda and I was working at the Rwanda Development Board. Actually, you were working at the Rwanda Development Board at the time.
We were colleagues.
Yes, we were colleagues. I was in the office of the CEO, managing different projects. And in the corridors, I was having those conversations with the colleagues, not thinking that 10 years down the line, Visit Rwanda will be here and nation branding will be a concept that is, very natural and understood by many in Rwanda. So I think I trace today, this moment that we are having today, I trace it back
to that dot.
And then what it made me do in terms of learning. So I learned more about branding, about product development, and so on.
And I recall before I left the country in 2016, you also had started, prior to this job, doing something about positioning Rwandese coffee?
Yes. So after working at the Rwanda Development Board for 2 years, I moved because the National Agriculture Board was developing an international campaign to position Rwandan coffee internationally as a coffee of quality.
Okay.
Indeed, Rwanda produced an Arabica, grade A, which is some of the best in the world. But we needed an identity, we needed the logo, taglines, the whole 360 of product positioning. And I saw that as a first opportunity to position a product that is authentically Rwandan, that is of high quality, to a global audience. And I took that opportunity and went to work with NAEB, so the National Agriculture Board, and Innovation Village, which was the company that was in charge of the rollout of that project.
Amazing, amazing. Obviously, everybody's looking at Rwanda as the effective Wakanda of the continent. Every nations from non-African to continental African are looking at you as a model. What do you think is the reason for all this innovation? What is the impetus? What is the root driver? Tell us what your view on it.
I think it's really about creating the right environment for everything to flourish. And in the case of Rwanda, it stems from the leadership of His Excellency Paul Kagame is very clear in terms of putting Rwanda on a path to development. We have policies that are conducive, and we follow through those policies. When it comes to tourism, travel, events, I mean, you're here in Kigali on the sideline of the BAL, the Basketball Africa League.
It was amazing, as usual.
We have an open visa policy, so any citizen of the world can travel to Rwanda and get its visa on arrival. It's actually free for citizens from the Francophonie, from Commonwealth, and from African Union. Other countries pay a minimal fee at the airport, and that encourages people to come to Rwanda. Now, once you're here, you have ease of movement, you have security, the country is safe, it's clean, and all those elements contribute to where we are today as a country. Yeah.
No, to see how the country has evolved over the last, my first time here was, interestingly enough, in 2011. And that's like almost 12 years ago, almost. And it's a phenomenal to see how a lot of the strategies we used to work with your government, whether it was Ministry of Finance, RDB, or the various investment vehicles, whether it's Crystal Ventures or Agachiro later. And it was all about building a hub. And back then it was a concept, academic concept, that today, whether you look at the tourism vertical, if you look at the financial service vertical, the technology vertical, and the sport vertical, all those have gone from PowerPoints to reality.
Very tangible.
So it's really phenomenal, and I want
fun.
And fun for sure.
The BL now is
absolutely.
It's the African rendezvous. Everyone wants to be in Kigali in May, and I hope you had fun this week.
Absolutely, lots of fun. It's amazing how it's boundless level of entertainment, really, when you think about it, which is really phenomenal to see how the country has bounced to this level. Because I remember, like 15 years back, entertainment could be a scarcity, and now we're seeing how the government in multi-layer has done it. And I want to dive down into the sport segment, because that's really one territory where I would argue that in the continent, the single player, and maybe across many continents, if you look at, I do not know of a country that you find systematically in a UK top league player saying, visit my country, Premier League. And then in France, we go to Paris Saint-Germain, visit my country, Rwanda. And then now, every single jersey of the Basketball Africa League of the NBA is going to be carrying Visit Rwanda every year. This is phenomenal. So, I mean, that's like shows foresight, systematic approach. Tell us a bit more about the strategy and what provides so much foresight into the future.
Indeed. So the call to action is everywhere. And we want people to come and visit Rwanda. The choice of sports is first and foremost, because sports bring people together. Sports is synonym of joy, of discipline, and it has a unifier effect, really. And that's why we took that approach and used sports, PSG, Arsenal, BAL as the platform through which we reach the hearts and the minds of millions of people across the world.
And that approach seems to be vastly profitable, because we can see how during BL it was hard to find rooms across hotels, and all the places are packed. But also economically, I'm sure it's translated to lots of benefit. I remember your CEO of RDB, Claire, speaking to, I think it was Financial Times or BBC, when they asked, by Western standards, Rwanda is considered to not be rich. How come you are taking, if I recall at the time, maybe 30 million, whatever the cost was for 3 years, and you're putting it into a sport jersey? And I recall her response being that if you compare that number that is over 3 years to the revenue, the whole revenue we get in tourism, then you would understand why we're doing this. And I was assumed that the revenue on tourism has grown. Where are we today, and how does that compare to some of these investments you were making?
Yes, it has grown. Just last year, we've reached more than $400 million in terms of revenue for 2022. And our recovery rate compared to 2019, which is before COVID, is at 90%.
Wow.
So with 1.1 million visitors. By UN WTO standards, most countries in the world are at 60% recovery rate. And we are above, mostly because of, the communication that we've put in place to bring people back together, but also other measures, also in the health sector. Rwanda has managed the pandemic in a very structured way, and it was easy to reopen the country once the pandemic was over.
Amazing.
This episode is powered by Afroballers. Afroballers is the largest digital platform curating stories of African athletes, creating values in sports industry on and off the court. Afroballers collaborates frequently with major sports leagues and major sport personalities of African descent. It services an audience of over 100,000 of followers. We at Silverbacks Valley are big fans.
The other thing that has always impressed me is how all of us in your country, you have, when you're lucky, you can have a safari, you can have some animals that bring some tourism. In your case, one of all these animals alone, the silverback, the gorilla, which has inspired the name of our company, commands so much. How much dollars are we getting around the gorilla alone?
For the gorilla, to visit the gorilla today, it costs $1,500.
Okay.
And the reason why we put the price at that level is because we reinvest the profits into the community. So 10% of the tourism revenues, which are really the revenues of the park, are brought back to community to build hospitals, schools. Another percentage goes to management of human and wildlife conflict.
Wow.
Because as you know, and that's not for the gorilla park essentially, but other parks, you have buffaloes who can, destroy a field or some challenges, and we compensate the local population. And another percentage goes to the universal health insurance, mutuelle de santé in French. And so it's very important that the revenues are brought back into the community. But also, Rwanda has done tremendous efforts in conservation. 20 years ago, the silverback were almost extinct.
Yes.
Today, you have more than 400 individuals, and we need to expand the park because we no longer have enough space for them.
Wow, amazing.
We went from less than 30 to more than 400. individuals, thanks to the day-to-day effort of the government of Rwanda, from protecting the silverback to educating poachers who are now trackers, who are now guides, who are now part of the ecosystem. And that's the story behind. I think those are the stories that needs to be told. And
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. When you actually get nature to help the country, that's like a rare story that you will not find anywhere. It's amazing to watch. Now, obviously, many countries are trying to emulate this. Neighbor countries all the way in West Africa. What advice are you giving to other governments in terms of tips you can drop, and obviously without divulging too much secret? The second part of the question is, what's next for Rwanda in terms of strategy with regards to tourism?
Well, the first question is not an easy one, but what I can say is that our continent is rich. Every country has its own unique selling points. I mean, you come from Senegal. I grew up in Ivory Coast as a kid, and our Africa is beautiful. It's vibrant, and every country has its own unique selling point. What we need to do as Africans is to put in place the right structures, the right policies to harness our potential. And in our case, back to the topic we are covering when it comes to tourism and sports, Rwanda wants to be a leading sports destination, a global sports destination. And we took inspiration from Senegal. You build an arena in Diamniadio.
Yeah.
We asked Senegal for advice, and we built the same, a bit better.
Clearly. It's a powerful copy-paste. The paste is better than the copy.
Yes, and we did it in 6 months because it was already done. And so those are also examples of,
partnership, collaboration.
Pan-African collaboration. Next year, we will finish the Amahoro Stadium, which is a 45,000 seats, the largest in East Africa.
Wow.
Rwanda will welcome the World Cycling Championship in 2025.
Wow.
So key events from all the way to 2025 and beyond. And just for this year, we concluded the BAL, but we will have Giants of Africa with Masai Ujiri in August.
Yes. And you also just had a FIFA.
Yes, we had the re-election of Mr. Infantino.
There was also an event where the legends were playing with the president of the country.
Indeed, legends in Rwanda.
And I understand there's another event coming next year.
There is another event coming mid-next year.
Tell us about it.
Yes, so it's basically it's a legend in Rwanda. It's an initiative that will bring global football legends to play in Rwanda over a couple of days around football. So it's a celebration of football, but really with the biggest name.
In sport, clearly, you guys have been phenomenal, but I've observed as well that it's fundamentally the sport and entertainment that you guys have just slowly, carefully captured, which is core to our strategy. But I've heard that you guys, as I leave, you guys are about to prepare for Trace Awards.
Yes,
so tell us about the whole Trace Award and all other events. I understand that your stadium hosted like over 100 events in the span of the last 18 months.
Yes, the convention center.
The convention center.
The Kigali Convention Center is booked until the end of the year.
Wow.
And almost fully booked next year.
Wow.
And behind that is a strategy, which is our MICE, so Meeting, Incentive, Conference and Event strategy, which aim at positioning Rwanda as a destination for events. And today we come second in Africa in terms of numbers of events.
Wow, congratulations.
And conference. we're also going to welcome the World Travel and Tourism Council in November.
Oh, which happened in the Middle East last year.
Yes, it's happening in Riyadh.
In Riyadh, okay.
Yes.
Wow, and will it be the first time it's happening in the African continent?
The first time it's happening in Africa.
Wow.
Yes.
You
So
guys
it's
like
not
being the
about-
first of everything.
It's hosted in Kigali, but then again, it's for Africa.
Michaella, going back to Michaella, now you've already gone through this journey and you've accomplished a lot you can be proud about. If you had to state a few words to your 19-year-old version, what would you tell young Michaella?
Interesting question. My 19-year-old, I would tell her to trust the path. The path will unfold. The path unfold as you progress. So trust that the dot will connect. It's really what you were saying at the beginning. When I came across that book, on nation branding, I could not imagine that 10 years down the line, I'll be working in tourism in Rwanda.
Be the chief authority of the sector.
So the path unfolds as you progress. And I think it's valid for everyone. It's for each and every one of us. We have to trust that the dots will connect, and they do connect.
Beautiful, beautiful. So there is another quote which states that the singer has to sing, the painter has to paint, the poet has to write. What is it that Michaella has to do in order to be?
Right.
To write.
I'm a writer.
You're a writer. Okay.
I'm a poet.
Wow.
And a writer. And I think I need to do that more.
Yes, I remember you used to be in the slam.
Yes, I used to do a lot of spoken word, slam poetry, being on stage, and I need to go back. Yes.
Well, maybe you're already doing it. All this work with tourism is a lot of poetry, it's a lot of spoken word,
Yes.
There's a lot of storytelling.
It's storytelling. Really at the heart of the work we do it's storytelling. It's telling the world who we are, but it's also ensuring that the promise we make match the experience. So, we guarantee an experience to visitors who come to see us in Rwanda. And our work is also to make sure that the experience is unforgettable.
Wow. As we separate, it was really amazing having you today. I would like you to recommend a book, a movie, a podcast that you invite the audience to explore. I mean, because you've had a great experience or have a good memory of it.
Yes. So there's two books. The first is 1,000 Hills.
1,000 Hills, okay.
It's by Stephen Kinzer.
Okay.
It's the biography of His Excellency,
Okay.
Paul Kagame. Great book,
Okay.
which tells you a lot about the history of Rwanda.
Okay.
And explaining what happened in the past and how we're here today.
Amazing.
And the second book is The Prophet by Khalil Gibran.
All right.
A Lebanese poet, which
One of my favorite book.
I love dearly. His poems on life, on children, on marriage, on relationship are just
Amazing
amazing book. And I've offered that book. I don't know how many copies of the book I've bought.
Yeah, I love that. It's also a favorite. So I've read the second, so I'm gonna read the first one.
Yes, beautiful.
In fact, one that may not be too dissimilar is one I read while I moved here, called Rwanda Inc.
Oh yes, Rwanda
Inc. is also an amazing
great
one.
book
Yeah, I
about
forget the name of the author. We'll put all three books on the show notes.
Okay,
And
that's good.
we'll invite the audience to really make sure they come and visit Rwanda.
Yes, visit Rwanda.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great having you today.
Thank you, Ibrahim. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.